Hi, folks. I just want to, just before we get started on this, hopefully by now you should complete class exercise number one is the Hello World, and you should install three things by now with it. The first one is the Node.js. The second one is the Visual Code. And the third is we need it like a Chrome browser. Okay, I recommend Chrome because it will get your stuff running either Chrome or Firefox with it on some of the stuff with it. So three things by now with it. You should have. I'm going to leave off with the part where we had is the Hello World program when you actually run this. So and the second thing is that I pulled a separate USB drive, plugged it in. I created a directory called ITSE 1311, and then with a subdirectory called JS class exercise, and a directory called 01 underscore basic. And this is our hello world. This is this. Now, if you have done that, before we do that, I'm going to open up your your code over here. Make sure you have file open folder and or open project over here, pointing it to the directory that you have where your files are stored. Okay, so a few things to get in line before we get started with this whole thing. All right, so make sure I have this pointed to the directory that I have right now with it. The third thing I need for you to have is make sure you have your command line CMD and pull up your command line with this, and it looks like this from last time. So since I switched to the G drive, which is a flash drive, just type in the name of the drive. How do you find out what your drives are? Plug it in. It'll tell you what drive it is in your file explorer. This is G here. Excuse me. I'm going to hit enter, and it switches to G. Just some command for you to get set up here. Remember the dir, short for listing of what you have in your content. Of course, I have a directory. If you notice here, it's ITSE 1311. So I'm going to do cd ITSE 1311. And this is you're in the directory of the 1311 dir again to show what's the content. I need to go inside cd for change directory space js classes class exercise plural with the s, and you see my prompt changes with the directory with it, and I do dir. The only file I have right now is the subdirectory called 01 basic. That's the directory. I need to go to that directory called 01 underscore basic, and then I'm inside of basic. Look at my prompt here, and then I'm going to do a dir, and the only file I have is the hello world, and I'm just going to pick up where we left off as if you did the node hello world.js. I hit enter, and it should say this is where we left off as hello world JavaScript rocks. So have this set up with it. Another command I'm going to show you is cls, clears everything with it. You're welcome to do that, or you can do cls, hit it, and just clear everything with it. I'm going to have this minimized at the bottom of the tray with it. So when we run the code, I'll probably take this, and it's going to look like this. So excuse me, this is there we go. So we have something like this right now, right? So if I ran this code right now, the way how I have it, if I do an up arrow key, if you hit anything as up arrow key, it will pull back on the previous command that you just did. So I'm going to do node hello world.js, meaning the JavaScript with it. Hit enter, and this is what I have with this one. So before we move, getting all the pieces in line and all the stuff with it, before it's very important. All right, let me get started on this. So I need for you to come in here right now. We're going to actually create another file. So do you see this little plus sign that says new file? Click on it with a little dog ear with a plus sign, and I want you to name this file called variables.js. All right, variables.js with this. And hit enter for me. So it creates another directory, another file over here with it. A couple of things I want to talk to you about before we get moving. When we move forward on this, is there's ways that we need to comment. Comment means it's blocked out. This // that I have here. This is a comment. So a comment means that it puts up a mask, basically. It hides it from when you run. The visual code does not see it and runs it. It just ignores it. The second way that I want to show you is if you do / and asterisk and give it a couple of lines down and an asterisk and a // anything after in line 2 all the way to the beginning of this is also ignore. So I can do block comment, I could do single line comment. This comment is what's called a single line comment, right? Single line comment. This is a block comment. So this entire block comment is actually being not seen in the compiler, or I'm sorry, in the code when it actually runs with it. So get used to this because I'm going to comment as we document a lot of stuff that we talk about in this as well. The first thing I need to talk to you about is let me just document as we go along with this thing. So the first thing we're going to talk about is variables with this, and variables play a very key element in our daily lives and programmings with as well. Variables are basically it carves out a container basically and tells you what to put in that container, whether it's different data types that you want to get into, and this is what this is about. So let me just do this. This is a single comment with this thing, right? So that entire line is just masked out with it. Let's try something. Let's try something very, very simple with it. I'm going to introduce you a concept that's called let, and there's two ways you can define a variable. First of all, it's called let, which is a reserved word, by the way. I'm going to talk about what's a reserved word. And the other one is to be var. All right, so I want bear with me for variable with it. So I'm going to start with the first thing is let and var are declarations, how you declare variables. Okay, if you want to think about that, and they're reserved words, right? Which means what? You can't call let. You cannot. I'll say let and var are reserved words. Okay, so you can't call it let. All right, so bear with me. So let's say we do let score. I want to set score to be 100. All right, and inside of this, let's say I want to see what's inside a score, right? So I'm going to show you something that remember that we did console.log. Remember this? And we also went in and we can do score in this thing. And if I did this, all right, and see what if I want to see what's inside score, I can run this. Before you run it, you notice it has a little asterisk up here. It needs to be saved. So Control S, and that little circle now turns into a little X now, right? So if you want to come over here on the command line with it, I'm just gonna do node. This time I haven't had a variable, so I have to do node variables. Same spelling as that file name that you just created with an s.js, right? Hit enter, and you should see 100 that comes out of this right now, right? Pretty boring stuff, right? So let's come down here and let's do something a little bit more interesting with it as well. So let's say you do want to see this. Another data type you could actually say is let name, and you're going to put in here with an apostrophe called Linda. All right, this becomes a string. Anything you put in between a single quote, it is a string with it. So in here, I'm going to come in here, instead of saying Linda in here, I'm going to say, another way I'm going to do is let's say name. All right, so let's say name. And then behind, let's make this a little bit more interesting with this. So I want to demonstrate the key concept is an apostrophe and here with it. So I'm going to do something like this. So let's say this person name, and then I'm going to come over to the right of that apostrophe. I'm going to do this. Let me maximize this so I can have a little bit more space for you to see. I'm going to put the variable name here with it, right? Now remember, I have a space that I put in my quote right here. This is actually what's called literal. It's a string data type with it. This name is actually Linda. You agree? This person's name with an apostrophe after it and a space scored. Okay, with this score, and I want to use a plus for concatenation, and I want to use score right here. So. And then if you want, you can concatenate it with a punctuation after it. So you can do a single quote with a period after it. Something very simple like that. All right. So let me move this to the right like this so you could see to drag this so you can see the rest of this. Excuse me for a second. It's not letting me here. Okay, so let me pull up this. If I did node variable again, and you're going to see, okay, so well, guess what? I didn't save it, right? Remember this little circle here, so I need to click over here and just do Control S, saves it, come back to over here, hit up arrow key, pull back that node.js with it, and it has a whole bunch of errors in there. No, wait, let's take a look at what we were looking at here. So it looks at it as syntax here. You got a whole bunch of stuff that's all messed up here. We don't understand what you're trying to tell us to do. Let's take a look. So if you look at score here, look at this. It says you're telling it to do score, and hang on, hold on a second.